I could hear you. Hello, Irene.
Ah, hi, Irene. Hi, so nice to talk to you.
I am
Hi.
excited about our conversation and excited to hear all the things that you're going to teach us and about what you do. And in the meantime, while people are recognizing that we have a space going, I'm like trying to retweet and reshare um,
Yeah,
all the things so that
awesome.
we can
Thank
get
you so much. I was supposed to be joined by Tor, co-founder of Artscape, but I have to excuse him because he was pulled into last minute meeting because we are launching on Thursday and they're installing the booth at the art fair tomorrow, and it will include an installation and they're preparing the transport, and it's a super crazy time. So I will be I will do all the presentation of Artscape, and will be happy to do it.
We are so excited to hear about it. No worries at all. We understand last minute things come up, but you're also in the release week, and so we know it could get kind of crazy. I do want to
Yeah.
see our co-host for today. His name is Milton, here with Art, and his crypto angel. Hello, Milton. How are you today?
GM, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Excited for this talk.
Hi, Wilson. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, Irena.
And so if you have a moment, I'm like trying to repost some things here, but if you have a moment and you're able to repost, that would be great. Looking forward to hearing about Artscape and all the things that you do with Artscape. So I'm really excited. I thank you, by the way, for making time for us. We do appreciate that in this busy week that you have going on.
Of course. I mean, I'm super happy to. I'm a bit afraid because I have on my phone my account and Artscape account, and I'm a bit afraid that if I like switch, that it's that I'm gonna get kicked off.
Okay, yeah.
Um, because then
Yeah, if you want to,
I
now is the perfect time to do it.
yeah. Oh, it's always I cannot post and speak at the same time. Right? I have to fully focus.
Totally understandable. Well, hello, Mo. Thank you for joining us. Together with Llamo Art and Milton and Irena. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to start our artist interview shortly.
Hi Mo, we met in Lisbon, I think, right? Was it Lisbon? It was Lisbon. It's lovely to see you here.
So excited. Well, if Irena, if you're ready to get started, we are as well, unless you're changing to a different profile, that'll be just fine.
No, 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 no. I'm staying here. I just reposted that we're online in the space. I think that's all I can do now. I'm happy to start too.
That's great. Well, let's see. Okay. Well, Irina, thank you so much for making time for us. We so appreciate you making time for this spotlights that we are doing. We're doing an artist spotlight, and in this case, you would be our artist spotlight, which we're going to learn more about the kind of work that you do in the arts. Not that you are an artist, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to start with how we met. We met in Estonia. We met at Banana Conference. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, at the amazing Banana Conference. It really brings together the nicest people I've met so far in the space. It's an awesome event.
It was such a great, amazing time. You were one of the speakers. You were very much involved. And so we'll start there. Tell us a little bit about Banana Conference and what you did there. And then we can get started into tell us who Irina is and what kind of artist are you?
Yeah, super happy to. So Banana Conference last year was still NFT Talent, right? And I was working with a really super cool project. It was called Meta Walls. Um, and basically it was like an NFT ecosystem for street artists. Like it worked with fractionalization of work, like with really like creating this kind of like everlasting trace of street art on the blockchain. Unfortunately, as so many really lovely projects during their market, it has to stop because the investor needed to basically pull out. And but we were there at NFT Talent. Like we had a booth, we did live painting with local street artists, and street art tour with them. And everyone really appreciated it. It just like created this amazing vibe. And I could also like through the project connect to Sander, the founder of NFT Talent, and to other participants. And even though like Metaverse had to basically close the shop soon after that, I stayed in touch with Sander, and then also with Nizar, and met them again in Berlin, and told them what a fantastic experience I had. And they were like, "Hey, you know what? Like, just come, like, get involved." And we basically, I joined the team as a curator, so I was one of the curators for the exhibition that we did, like for the open calls that we did for BananaConf this year. And I was also speaking in a panel on DAO governance. Yeah, and it was an amazing experience, and I hope to be able to make it next year as well. It's really, yeah, I think like one of the events with the most awesome community and around and in Web3. So kudos to them. And yes, and that's also where we met. And you were representing basically yourself there as an artist. And I listened to your talk and reached out after that. And now I'm here. So this is this is the lovely way of how the human connection can be translated into the online space, right?
We're so grateful. I am so grateful to have met you, and what a great opportunity to meet new people in real life events, such as conferences like the NFT conference in Talent. So we're so grateful for the opportunity. I was there representing both myself as an artist, but the organization for which we are now here gathered together, Light.Art and Llamo Art. One of the panels that I spoke on was about the nonprofit in Web3, which was very eye-opening in how other Web3 companies are using nonprofits within Web3, or the connection to in real life events and Web3. And so I was honored to be there. And so thank you for that. Thank you for showing up on our small panels. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Irena.
Yeah, so I'm based in Berlin. I come from Czech Republic originally, but I live in Berlin since 12 years now. And I could say that I spent all my life in the art world because my grandfather was a professional painter and my mom is an art teacher. So already as a small child, I was dragged to all of the exhibition. I don't think I appreciated it back then, but I appreciate it now. And so then, yeah, it kind of like pulled me to studying art as well. But I studied what was called Theory of Interactive Media, which was basically part of the art history program, but it was focused on the intersection of art and technology. Back then, it's I think now almost going on like 17 years ago. So it wasn't really about blockchain back then, but it was like about all the predecessors. And yeah, so I think I'm going on 20 years now spent basically in the art world, professionally or as any like or actively, I would say, from organizing video art festivals still at the university through transforming a huge old barrack palace in the center of Prague into an exhibition space for young artists, through working for like one of the major German art dealers here in Berlin, towards basically working in Web3. I switched full-time to Web3 in 21. And basically through the NFT community and like what it can do for artists, through crypto anarchy community and kind of like through also the infrastructure, because I also studied economy. So I'm also interested and have been kind of like exploring like the crypto economy aspects of the space. And now I work as a strategist and curator and all kinds of stuff because we're a tiny team. So you know, like how it is in a startup, a tiny team, you just do everything. For Artscape, which is a new curated platform that is launching now in 2 days during Enter Art Fair in Copenhagen. So we're launching basically like in this like physical art fair and also online, and are very excited about it. Now I don't know if I forgot something and what did I say? Because once I start talking, I don't stop and I don't remember what I said. So you might have to catch me up on some of the topics that I mentioned. Sorry, I'm just, yeah, chaotic.
No, Irena, I think that's a great introduction. I think you covered a lot of ground as far as your history goes. You're studying. You've been in the art space for 20 plus years. I'm just curious what prompted you, because I mean, 20 years ago, I don't know if you were looking at digital art. I've learned recently through some posts of a friend of mine that digital art's perhaps a little bit older than I would have first believed. Warhol was even experimenting, Keith Haring were experimenting with some digital art pieces, though we didn't have the token infrastructure that we do now. But, art and technology, we're obviously in Web3, we're right at the crux of that. But what was your history like? What really drew you to that particular field coming from 20 years of art history? Why was that the most exciting thing that you could pursue? Because art's got so many different avenues and rabbit holes that you could explore. Why this one?
I think it was partly random. Because I was looking at the faculty of arts at the art history department because that was something that I was interested in, and I was basically looking into what they are offering. And this was something that like immediately drew me in also because I was, I think, only the second year of this program running. So it was extremely open and it was, really in a way that people could like, because it's a really big university, in Czech Republic, like where this is part, and there is like, also like a media and there's like, art faculty, like a practical, for art practice basically. And, So you could really like take courses from all the faculties as well. So there were people who were more interested in like the theater aspect, in like technology, in like the theater scene. There were people who were more interested in like the gaming and its culture and people. So you could study this and really like choose the area that you're most interested in and then pursue this. So I combined basically this with the art. It's to be completely honest, I didn't think I could ever use that in the profession. That's why I also then I also studied, media studies on the side and I studied economy after that. Like to get something that, you know, I could actually make a living with this. I don't think to this day my parents actually know what I studied because it was like completely confusing to explain. But what it was focused on basically, like it generally the focus of the program or how I kind of like made it for myself was really like from the almost the beginning, so to say, that like artists like started to use like reproductive technology. So like from the first like experiments with photography, onwards. So it wasn't really about digital art only. It was like really about like art and technology. And of course, I mean, there are already events that could be traced before photography, like how artists started like to create art like with the help of some machines, and so on. But this was kind of like the photography was kind of like the mental start of this program where it, where the focus was. So yeah, but I didn't know anything, and it's like surprised to this day that I can actually use the knowledge that I gained there, that I can use it professionally. It's quite awesome.
You are so studious. And wow, you study economics, media, digital or technology. You're very well versed in the NFT space in general because you're just following your heart when it comes to studies and you don't stop, which I'm very excited for you because I think as we're in a space that is ever changing, we have to continue to learn the tech side of things. But I want to hear more about how you enter the NFT space coming from that traditional studies of tech, art, media. How did you enter the NFT space? How was your introduction into the space?
So my introduction to like starting to follow in like crypto and crypto scene like came through the crypto anarchist community because I used to work like back in Prague. I used to work with a activist group called Stohoven, and they opened the Paronipolis in Prague, Institute of Crypto Anarchy, as a basically experiment. It's still running, since 10 years, basically now. They do hackers congresses every year. It's a really awesome space, and it was also like the first only Bitcoin, cafe, there, like in the world that you could only pay with Bitcoin with nothing else. And so I followed them and they started this in 2014, I think. So I followed them, and visited them regularly for a long time because they were also friends of mine. So we had like many conversations, but I didn't think like I could really contribute to it because I wasn't a hacker and I didn't kind of like understand the technical aspect of it. So I was kind of looking at what they're doing from bit outside. And also by the time I was already in Berlin. So I wasn't, like closely, like physically there. And then, a friend of mine, other friend of mine, like because I left for maternity leave with my second child, and when I was coming back, a friend of mine who was already like in the crypto scene like since I think 2016 maybe, she was telling me, hey, you know, there's this NFT thing, and there's like super lot of software developers, and it's kind of like this thing for the artists, and but no one understands the art market. You should really have a look at it. And like, if you would be interested, and that's basically how I really, went down the rabbit hole in a way that, it was kind of like it merged those two things. And I was like, oh, okay, like now I can actually, um, really kind of like dig deeper to it. And through understanding the NFT mechanisms, I also kind of like understood more of what was happening, like in like general, like in the crypto when it comes like to the privacy and to, those questions that are like more relevant for the crypto anarchies, anarchist scene than for the art world. But, yeah, so that was kind of like, those were like the two impulses that kind of make me go, oh, I should have a look at it. And once I had a look at it, I was like, okay, this will be something.
So, Irena, once you took a look at it through your connections at this kind of cypherpunk Bitcoin cafe connection and your friends who encouraged you to look at the art side, um, what what was the state of when you looked inside? Because crypto can be crazy, and particularly crazy in 2021 when NFTs were a newer thing, at least to the public. I'd been an underground movement prior, but I was there and it was kind of pandemonium from what I remember. I mean, it was fun. It was exciting. A lot of speculation going on, but what was the state of crypto art when you first looked into it? Like, what were the platforms you first looked at? And then, when you dipped your toe in, everybody I think studies it from afar and then they get involved. Obviously you're involved now, but what were your first steps looking in? What was it like when you saw inside? And then how did you actually first get involved? Like, did you collect? Did you curate? Did you, advise projects? What was that process like?
So first, I what did I want, what did I want to say? I mean, like, frankly, I started to look at it and I was lucky that I had this friend on my side who was already really versed in it. And she was like, yes, like you have to try it, just like mint something on Etherscan. And so I went and somehow I minted something like on Etherscan, which I still don't know. Like, it was so confusing. I couldn't really, like, I was writing her back and forth and she's like, yeah, no, I mean, like, you have to do it. You have to do it. So I minted some loot, on Etherscan. It was this awesome generative project that was back then because, but the thing is, like, when I started to look into it more and like went to the rabbit hole, as you say, 21, it was completely crazy and I didn't understand anything. I saw super lot of things that didn't make any sense. Also, just, like a picture after picture after picture was complete wild, wild west. Um, I don't think it's good to come into the scene like on this kind of like super hype because I was just, like reading Twitter and it was just like this big thing and this big thing and this big thing. And I didn't really know about it. So I was like trying to read it. I didn't collect like, or really invest, at all. First, I was like really broke. And second, I mean, like I wanted to understand it first. Then that was kind of like then good. Like when the market dropped, I was like, oh, well, I mean, sucks, but, but, it was, I was still like super new. So I wasn't really going, okay, I'm not going to start by investing what I don't have. I'm going to start by trying to understand it. So I tried to like mint some NFTs and like look into some collections more kind of like to experiment with the technology and to understand like what happens and where do I find it. And, I joined a hackathon, East Global. That was, also a super cool experience. And, then, this again, friend of mine who's, actually Lily Ireland, I should name her. Why don't I name her? She's awesome. She was living in Berlin at the time. Um, she's great, and basically she started like to put together, hey, we should do NFT Berlin and conference here, that like we should kind of like get people together to talk about it more. So from like people who's like said that they want to contribute, we ended up being like actually I think around 10 people, 10 to 12 people who actually really wanted to put some like sweat and tears into it. And we organized the conference in Berlin in May 22. NFT Berlin that had 4 tracks, and the hackathon, the tracks were about art, finance, gaming, and infrastructure. And I was involved like in the whole organization, and I was in charge of the hackathon. That was also an awesome experience. So basically I went in through event organization and also met like more projects and more people. So it was a great experience as well. And basically right after that, I joined Metaverse that I mentioned before, this street art NFT ecosystem project, and where we started to prepare a relaunch. So like also including like all the strategy and the mechanics like behind, and basically liaising with the artists and so on. So that's basically how I spend my time mostly then until joining Artscape last year in October, I think.
What a great history into behind the scenes of NFT, or before it even started, learning meta through a cafe shop, and friends introducing you to that. I think it's so important to have friends that help us through the journey as it's new and complicated. But you turn your digital, you turn into digital from a blend of new media art, spent over a decade in traditional art markets and working internationally for top contemporary art galleries. And your conversation leads us into what are you doing currently with Artscape, which leads us into this conversation for today about Artscape, which you joined last year, but it has a few years already operating in the digital world. Can you tell us a little bit more about this work that you're doing currently?
They actually were launching like in the digital, like kind of like the digital extension of Artscape right now. The founders, Tor and Danielle, they're Swedish, and they founded Artscape in 2014. And for 10 years, basically, they have been transforming like the public space in Sweden and like in Scandinavia, mostly focused generally, but also globally. So they've been working with street artists. They both have Tor used to have a gallery before that he was a sea captain, so it's also a really interesting history. But I don't know how he came from the sea captaining to owning a gallery. So that would be for another time. And Daniel was like a community organizer, and he worked with artists. And so yeah, now every time, I mean, like whenever you search for Malmö in Sweden or any kind of like Swedish tips, I mean, you find mentions of Artscape that kind of like turns the city into this like street art gallery. And they started basically to get more interested in the digital space more and more, I think, kind of like by being intrigued and started like to read about it and thinking about like how it could benefit the artists and what they could bring into it. And basically like the mission of Artscape is to work like on the intersection of the traditional art world and of the digital art world, because we all have experience from the traditional art world, and we see that there's a lot of things that don't work, that are kind of like set already. It's like very, it's a very kind of like gate-kept in a certain sense world. It's very like who knows who. It's very, yeah, like, kind of like, it's kind of, it's global, but it's not global. You have to be in the right cities to have a chance of making it as an artist in the traditional world. it really like has its downsides. And so we know all that, but we also know that there are things that work in the art world that are proven by history. And then it's also like the kind of like the gatekeeping in the good sense, in the sense that you actually have people who understand art and who can look at art and look at so much art that they can like really evaluate it and know it and can give like good critiques and kind of like can present it in a context that is beneficial to it. So basically the mission of Artscape and the goal for Artscape is to work like on the intersection of the two and work with artists and work with them long time. So not just do like a single drops, but kind of like work with them on their career, kind of like grow together, and especially like grow more slow and more sustainably, hopefully, than the usual NFT startups that we saw a lot of them in 21 during the boom, when it's kind of like gets a super lot of investment money, then it burns it, and then what? So we kind of like really, that's why we're also working with only 2 artists now for the launch, so that we could give them more focus. It should be more artist centric, so that we could actually build and present the platform in a way that, like reflects what the artists need and what the collectors are searching for.
That's fascinating, Irena. And I'm looking at Artscape now. It looks like you're working with a couple artists, Monica Rizzolli and Astro. And I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about the artist that you chose to work with, because it sounds like Artscape's been around since 2014, so before the whole NFT craze. And I know when you use that word now, after you talked about the boom was kind of wild and maybe not so sustainable. So you're looking to work at a little slower pace with a little more focus and be very intentional with your artists, looking to build a long-term career move into the digital side. But what was that process like working with, for example, Monica and working with Astro? What was their initial reaction when you talked about digital art? I don't know if they had any experience prior. I'm just curious, like how that conversation went with these artists. It sounds like you're onboarding a lot of artists to a degree. So yeah, tell us more about that.
So it's really like 2 artists with a very different background. So Monica, she's based in Portugal, but she comes from Brazil. She studied art there at the fine arts. She studied fine arts at the University of Sao Paulo, and also then had scholarships in Germany. And so she's a trained artist who kind of like very early became interested in the possibilities of digital technology. And because she was really interested in kind of like the mechanisms that are like in that kind of like are functioning in the natural world, in the natural beauty, in kind of like this balance between chaos and order, how like flora of different areas in the world can like reflect on what kind of people do live there, like how much sun is there, what people are planting, like this kind of like geography of the botanical world. And she, since she was like interested in technology, she started to be interested in how she can kind of like how can she like replicate those processes with code, and how can she like basically create this structures that will kind of like imitate what's happening in the nature. So she started to work with generative art very early. She created her first generative art piece in 2015. And then became like very known when with like the NFT and with like the growth of the generative art scene. So she gathered quite like a big success, very, very deserved success in the generative art scene, and she's interested also more in the intersection with the traditional art world. So when we reached out to her, I think for her, it was interesting, like basically how do we want to work, and that we want to work like more in this like gallery model. She had already quite a lot of experience from working with different projects, and like basically from minting the works. So the collectors also, with like the artwork that they received, they also received the code with it, and she's like very experienced, and so it was very easy with her in a way, to kind of like bring her in, like one to bring her into the project, but also like to create the works that she wanted to, that she wants to present with us. And, Astro, I mean, that was completely different thing, because Astro is, street artist. He's a self-taught street artist from the suburbs of Paris. And he started like his practice in like year 2000. I mean, he's been active like all around the world. He's created this amazing, huge murals. So he left his trace really on like globally in the cities, including the famous Wynwood Walls in Miami, and of course a lot of locations in Paris and in France generally. And but he also works with galleries. He creates sculptures and installations, and he used to work previously with Tor and Daniel in kind of like what we call the old artscape. And so they talked to him at one point about having the intention to launch into the digital world, and he was really interested to experiment with that, and because he works like with optical illusions. He creates those like space like with calligraphy and with colors and with kind of like he works with perspective, and he was really interested to put it into movement. So for him, this was really like the first block. This was basically the work that we're launching now in Enter, that we're launching with Artscape, is the first blockchain-based work. And there, I mean, we have to be like guiding him much more, because he said, okay, like I really want to do this, but I don't understand it. And you can kind of like see that basically he needs to take it by small steps to kind of like see what he could do, see how it could work. So with him, I mean, basically we're taking mostly care of the minting. We helped him connect to an animator to animate the works, and we have to like work with him like much more closer when it comes also to the production of the works, to kind of prepare everything the way it needs to be prepared. And we're basically taking him along the way. So more, kind of like keeping him updated about what is happening when and how is it going to be. And this is going to be his first experience with selling NFTs and, having an edition of the digital work. So it's going to be really exciting. We're super interested also what he will say after the experience, because if it goes well, I mean, of course, he would love to continue exploring that, because he's also having super lot of fun, which is always really lovely to see.
Wow, so fun, so much to unpack in there. How exciting. I do have a question, like for future artists that you will continue to support online and physically. How are you choosing the artists that come to your platform? Is that something that you're doing? You're curating it? Is that from the IRL experience artists, or like the gallery that you guys are posting? Like, how does that process work? For those that are interested maybe in the future of Artscape and how they could get involved, can you tell us a little bit more how they could get involved and how is that process?
Of course. With like now with the artist, I mean, after it comes from the connection with Tor and Daniel, and with Monica, basically we all, like all three of us kind of like did our own research, sets together. It was like, we're like going through the artists that we would love to work with, and like set kind of like on some that were like on the top of our list, and we were very lucky that Monica, who was like really at the top of our list, responded positively to the request. So we were super excited about that. And basically, what we want to do, I mean, at the moment, since we're not able yet to onboard a larger number of artists, we want to kind of like choose the artists like individually with like either us or with like maybe invited curators who would help us kind of like do the choice, also to kind of like create a variety on Artscape. So it wouldn't be only kind of like who do we want to work with, but how would they fit to the program of Artscape currently. So much more like in the gallery space, but in a very, very near future, we would like to also open a more like open marketplace where like artists could also like that would be kind of like where we would be able to cater and to present more artists like more kind of like curated choices and in kind of like curated like small exhibitions or groups. So we will have like in any case open submission email for artists, and whoever would be interested in work with us. I think I'm not sure if the website is already up. I mean, we're really like it's we're really launching in 2 days, so you can imagine how crazy it is. But I think the artist submissions are already, the email is already online with the note text coming. So yes, the text is coming. And we would love to get in touch already, basically. We can't make any promises at the moment because, as I said, I mean, we want to take things quite slow and also like think about the next step and think about the next project. We already have some ideas, but we would like to become like more open in the future. So there will be like 2 ways, basically, how to work with us.
Love to hear that. How exciting for the opportunity that you guys are building for artists that have not yet experienced the online NFT experience, and you're helping them mint and create through that process. I think that's so important, handholding a newbie, a first timer, an emerging artist. And so I honor you guys for doing that. I think it's an important task and someone has to do it. But very exciting, opening up the opportunity for already experienced artists in the NFT space. So thank you for that. How do you strike a balance as a curator and in real life work of art? I mean, you are working in the marketplace of art. How do you strike a balance between all the things that you do online and in real life, and still try to be present in with your family or with people around you? How do you strike a balance between the online, offline experience?
I find that really difficult to do. And honestly, I don't have a good way to do it, I think, because I look at my phone way too often. I have 2 kids, like 2 sons, 5 and 8 years. So of course, I mean, I don't want them to just see me looking at my phone because it's kind of like difficult to explain them like, oh, like I'm actually like, this is actually for work. They don't see when I'm looking at the phone for work, when I'm looking at the phone, like playing, I don't know, what was this? Candy Crush, I could be playing Candy Crush. So I find that really difficult. At the same time, anytime I go online, I see just kind of like, oh, I missed that. Oh, there was an interesting space. Oh, a friend was having this online event and I wasn't able to attend. Either I didn't see it or I just didn't make it. So I have this like overwhelming, FOMO, and I don't know what's the opposite of that when you already missed the event. I think like scheduling some time, I was able to like lately have more like scheduled work time, to kind of like, like only, okay, I work from then to then. And that's kind of like where I check all the news and where I look at my phone mostly. And then I try to not do it that often, but I find it really, really difficult. If you have a good tip, shoot it at me, because I would love to get more balance there. I feel like I don't have that. I either leave to the forest and spend the week camping there and don't see the phone at all, or I have the phone in my hand way, way, way too much.
I don't know if I'm the one to give advice because I'm also guilty as charged of being online too much, but
I'm sure
definitely,
you are.
I think scheduling tweets is helpful, and I've used tech. It's not a cheap piece of tech, but I use Hype Fury, which I like as far as creating, scheduling, and also doing some of the retweeting for me, which is pretty powerful. So that's helped my engagement. I've noticed on a pinned tweet. I let Hype Fury do the heavy lifting for me there, and that's been a good tool to use. So you might look into some of them. X has its own tools. I may be overpaying for that. X has some of its own tools. You can obviously schedule tweets on X in advance. I just did one for my space, for instance. So that's helpful, to step away from the screen. But yeah, I've heard a lot more tips than maybe I've taken, but I know a lot of the artists that I speak to in this space who are just slammed. They're busy. They're very successful, and they have a good online presence, and still manage to create some distance between themselves and the phone. So I know, for example, Postwork, in my interview with her, she puts the phone in a different room. Like when she wakes up, she's an hour. It's a hard hour of separation between her and the phone, and she does some gratitude writings in the morning, and she does some writings about what she wants to accomplish that day and how she can best how she can best delegate some of those tasks to make her more efficient. So, yeah, before any interaction with a computer or a screen, she dives into herself a little bit. So, I should probably take that advice myself. But some people who are smarter than me and more disciplined are doing that, and it sounds like it's working for them. So, there's my 2 cents that I'm not using but should. I wanted to go ahead. Go ahead.
I can so understand you, because like I know, like even when I'm taking the phone in my hand, I know like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, like when I'm still like in the bed and I'm like, oh, this is not gonna go well for me, but I still do it. I think more discipline would be handy for sure. It's just yeah, it's just not so good, but just like what you were saying, I mean, reminded me also that it was like that even before. I know I was kind of like helping like with translation for an artist when I was still like in the university, and that is already quite some time ago. Definitely kind of like before this like crazy Twitter and social media stuff. And already back then, the artist was telling me like that the art practice is 30% and the marketing is 70%. That's basically what he has to do. And even though it was, just like keeping contact with the gallery, applying for grants, applying for like different scholarships, doing this, doing that, like, right, liaising with people, going to openings just to meet people, doing that it's just like, so, and then the problem is, or what is always like crushing my soul in the art market and the whole time I'm there, that you have like so many really amazing artists that are just not like physically able to do the 70% of marketing, that are just, it's so hard and it goes so much against their like natural being. I live with one of those artists. I mean, my partner is also an artist who would rather, like cut his leg off than basically like do some self-promotion. And it's really, it's kind of, I don't know how to find that balance, because it's really like for artists to be able to build something that will take this crazy marketing load off their back. Um, I would love for something like that to exist. for some time, because there is this idea that also a lot of people outside of the art world have, that, like, oh, you could be like someone's like agent, you could like speak for them, but it doesn't work, it's, unless you're already a collector who's like super well connected, then you can kind of like bring artists in. But just kind of like saying, okay, I'm gonna be like doing the talking for you, it just doesn't have the same impact as the artist doing it themselves. So it's also like, like this idea of, okay, Leo Castelli, was this like agent, like for the big artists, like that we're kind of like celebrating today. So maybe they also sucked in the self-marketing, but I don't think so. That was a bit of a different situation. So yeah, just as a reaction to this kind of like how much you have to be online. You have to be online way too much, for my taste. And I would also like the artists to be able to be online less and, work on their artworks more.
I think you're really correct. Nail on the head there. As far as Web3 is concerned, I know there's a lot of promise in going to direct to consumer, but like you said, some artists die to create, but wouldn't be caught dead shilling. The terminology we use for self-promotion. So is that something that Artscape is intending to help? Are you going to have some of the service? Obviously, you're here today. You're starting that process. Is this something that Artscape intends to solve, a problem that they intend to solve for artists? Is some of that marketing and promotion?
I would love that. I think partly we can do that. Partly we can, because I mean, we would like love to build this network of collectors that will kind of like help us also bring new artists to the scene, or like, like represent the artists that are already active or established and emerging and so on. Um, but but still it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna work without the active role of the artist, which I know is kind of like weird because today I'm here talking for the artist, and I think like kind of like galleries or gallery like structures can do that, but at the same time you only have like limited manpowers as a gallery. So you want, or like we want to be able, like to support in like intensive way all the artists that we would love to support, or that we think like that would really deserve it. It's always, I mean, also when I used to work in the gallery and you receive these gallery submissions, like, and like, or artists sending catalogs and so in the gallery. And sometimes you see really amazing work, but it's kind of like, there's, it's really difficult to kind of like bring in all the artists that would really deserve it for different reasons. So even as Artscape, we will have limited capacity to do that in scale. So it will only always like be more aimed at just several artists. So it's not going to be a solution um, that would really, like be revolutionary in this sense. We want to kind of like the way we want to work. We want to like attract, like also established artists, so newcomer artists, because I really believe in like this, like one supporting each other, because one will bring more collectors and the other one will like have more of a chance to present their work to like a larger collector base than they would only do like together with some like more, like with more emerging artists, or like that, would be if only we would be like working with the biggest stars. So I believe in this balance of kind of like, like helping one artist's career, like also through network of the other ones and basically lifting each other. But still, it's not, like it's not gonna help everyone, unfortunately. And I would like more like large brand solution that I don't know what it could be at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's hard for one organization to be that for all the artists in the space, but it is something to consider and ponder on, maybe joining forces with other people, other organizations that could support more artists. I do agree that artists have a harder time promoting themselves. We cringe at the fact, but we do it anyways because we feel that our art is worth exposing, and exposure is so important here in this space. And so we do it on a GM, we do it in a comment post, we do it often, so that more people get to see our work. We retweet other people's work, with the hope that their work gets seen. And what Light.Art has been doing is we have artist spotlight spaces. We also share other artists' work if they post it on our Discord. We also have a newsletter that goes out twice a month with the hope of adding the work that other people have done or shared to our Discord, but then also we highlight the spaces that we've held here so people can have a way to go back. And we do that through our newsletter. And so as little as we could support the artists, I feel like we're only doing a drop in the big sea. But I think it's something that we should all look forward to, maybe joining forces and with other people to help artists not feel the pressure of promoting and showing their own work on a nonstop. But it is part of the space. If you're a part of this space and you're an artist in this space, it's just something that we have to do to get our work seen, and we all want to be heard. And so this is something that we're trying to do in hopes of allowing the artists to be seen and be heard. So, but thank you, Irena, for the support that you're already giving to new artists that are still not in the space. You're giving them a place to learn and to share their work. And so I'm grateful to learn more about Artscape. We are so grateful for your time. We're coming up to that hour, and so we want to respect your time. So we're not going to do Q&A. We have 3 minutes till to end the space, but I do want to thank you for your time. And for those that are listening, we're so thankful for your time. We know that your time is valuable and we don't take that lightly. Here at Light, our community, we are a member of Llamo, our foundation, and together we want to empower artists, inspire collectors, and build community. And so if you want to join our cause, join our Discord. And if you feel the need and you want to support us and you want to donate to Llamo Art as a way of supporting the artists that we support via donation, please go to our website through Llamo Art and donate if you feel that our heart is to be able to do this for artists that can't do this for themselves, which is help and support and be here for them. But Irene, is there anything you want to leave us with? Any last words that you want to share with us?
Oh, that puts a lot of pressure on the last words. Now, I think just also that like I really admire like everyone who like really like creates. As I said, like I grew up with my grandpa as an artist. I live with an artist now. I know like how much effort does it take, like, but how much also love he needs to put into it. It's kind of like, like it's the whole life. And I really admire that as like someone who's been like working more like in the backstage of all this for a very long time. I really have endless admiration for everyone who kind of like puts their skin in the game and puts their like creativity out for other people to see in this way. So yeah, it's just yeah, keep on creating. It's really, it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. Yeah, it's it's too difficult. But I had a really, really lovely time, and thank you so much, Avrani, and for having me, for inviting me here. I really loved to share the experience. I hope we will be able to do this sometime down the line, and I will share with you how it's all going, because of course now what I also could share about Artscape is very much kind of like what our vision is, and I would love to share maybe in a few months about how is that vision coming to place, um, because that's probably then like more interesting than the ideas. And but I loved really to talk with you, nevertheless. And thank you for your time. Thank you for organizing this.
My pleasure. We're so grateful for you. I know Milton has to jump off, but Milton, you have any last words you want to say before you leave us?
No, good luck with the new artist and the show that's coming up. I'm sure you're working hard behind the scenes, but I know you're going to have big success. And we need more people like you with traditional art experience to bring to the Web3 world. So we appreciate you being here and especially being here with us today. Thanks again, Irina. Really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Really nice to meet you too. Have a great day, evening, in whichever time zone you are.
Yes, Irene, I will be going to Germany soon, so you and I will be in touch so that I can actually
Yes,
visit the galleries, which I'm very excited about, but we'll
yes.
definitely be in touch. I look forward to continuing updates on Artscape and all that you are doing for the artists. I love to help in any way that I can. But for those that have shown up and have come, thank you so much for being with us. We're so grateful for your time. We so appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
My pleasure.